Early intervention is key. Early intervention exists because it's effective. It works.
Hey special family, welcome back to another fair use reaction video. I'm AutismMom, and during this journey with autism, I've always heard people say early intervention is key. And I'm like, in the beginning, I was like, how can people not know that early intervention is key? But there was a whole rabbit hole to this whole early intervention is key thing. For me, I went through early intervention like nobody's business. I was on autism like white on rice. But then I had to learn over the years that some parents are ashamed. Some parents rather hide it than let others know that that is part of their life. Some parents are like, no, he doesn't have it, when the signs are clearly there, but the denial takes over, or one parent is on board and the other parent is like, don't call that on my family because it's still taboo in our culture. You know, there's a whole row of things that could be the reason for why early intervention is not sought of. But shame is one of the most important ones I could think of. But let me show you videos on why early intervention is key.
Here is the rationale behind early intervention for autistic children. From the ages 0 to 3 years old, this is a time of high neural plasticity. And this just means that the brain is highly adaptable and changing rapidly. We are forming thousands of new neural connections. The autistic brain works differently, and often the autistic brain is forming unhelpful connections. So during this time of high plasticity, we can rewrite connections or rewire the pathways in the brain to kind of forget the unhelpful connections and give them more meaningful and more adaptable neural connections. We form neural connections through behavior and environment. So things that we engage in repeatedly sort of signals to the brain, hey, this is important, we should form a connection here. Things that we maybe do once and then never do again, the brain decides that wasn't important and we're going to get rid of that connection. So if we can capitalize on this time where there is high brain plasticity, we can easily put into place some behavioral strategies that help autistic kids' brains rewire and form more helpful, more adaptable connections. And no, this does not mean that if your child is over 3 that this won't work. It just means that it gets a bit more difficult for the brain to make these adjustments, and it takes more repetition of the behavior in order for these changes to occur. If your child is delayed at all in any area, seek out early intervention so that you can do this critical work to sort of helping the brain rewire and form these really super important connections that are going to set them on the path to success in the future.
Here's something I tell parents all the time. Early support isn't just for your child, it's for the whole family. Because when a child struggles with speech, regulation, sensory needs, the entire family feels it. And when we start early, we're not just building skills for the child, we're building systems of support around everyone who loves them. Hi, I'm licensed psychologist Dr. Mark Bowers, and let me give you an example. When a child gets speech therapy, it's not just about the therapist and the words. It's about teaching you how to communicate in ways that your child understands. When you learn co-regulation strategies, it doesn't just calm your child, it calms you, which changes the energy of your home. When you understand sensory needs, suddenly meltdowns become manageable, siblings become more empathetic, and routines get smoother for everyone. Early support isn't about fixing a child, it's about empowering a family. It reduces stress, builds confidence, and it creates consistency, the one thing neurodivergent kids and parents both need. Here's the best part. You don't have to wait for a diagnosis or a green light to start. Every strategy you learn early becomes a gift that pays off for years. So when you hear early intervention, don't just picture therapy for your child. Picture coaching for you, connection for your family, and a calmer, more confident version of home. If this helped you see early support differently, please follow me for more insights on raising neurodivergent kids with confidence, clarity, and a home that works for everyone.
Let me explain why I still support 30 to 40 hours a week for early intervention in ABA. I'm Jay Burton, BCBA and host of ABA Beyond the Data, 12 years in the field, 8 of which as a BCBA, so I feel confident that I can cover this issue without concern. So let's dive in. First, let me be very clear. I am not talking about old school Lavoss method, table time, DTT, all day, ABA. That approach is dead, and if you're still using that, please stop and look at the research on play-based intervention. ABA today should be compassionate and engaging. I am talking about 30 to 40 hours that is filled with play, going on trampolines, swinging on swings, playing with the best of toys, and climbing all over jungle gyms. And yeah, maybe even watching a little bit of Bluey, and of course, taking naps as a child needs, which is imperative for early intervention. If a child is happy, relaxed, and engaged, then 30 to 40 hours is not only doable, it's full of compassion. Think about it. Without ABA, most kids that age would be in daycare. Many there would be receiving daycare from 8 to 4 or even until 7, which is more than 40 hours, guys. So where do my recommendations for these hours come from? Research, decades of it. The Council of Autism Service Providers, or CASP, publishes a white paper every few years. They review thousands and thousands of articles on ABA hours and outcomes. One of their most recent analysis compared those that receive less than 12 hours, those that receive less than 25, and those that receive between 26 and 40 hours per week. And those that received, that last group, outperformed the others across domains. One of those domains they measured in was the CARS assessment, which measures symptoms of autism. They found that children who received 26 to 40 hours per week had an average 11-point reduction in autism symptomology. To put that in context, on the CARS, a 30 indicates autism is present. So if a child comes in with, let's say, 40, which is level 2 autism, and receives 30 to 40 hours of quality play-based ABA, their score could potentially drop to 29, which is below the threshold of autism for that assessment. That doesn't mean autism is gone. No, of course not. It means that that assessment can no longer catch it. That's why 30 to 40 hours is so powerful. It creates meaningful outcomes. Now, this doesn't mean that every child needs that level of intensity. If a child comes in with like a score of 31 and has no severe behaviors, research shows that 10 to 15 hours can still be effective. But for children with level 2 and 3 autism, more hours is likely going to be needed. So, is 30 to 40 hours compassionless or anti-assent? When it's done correctly. Just like when any number of hours is done correctly. When it's done correctly, it can be filled with play, assent, and compassion.
What if I told you there was one single factor that is the most significant contributor to your autistic child meeting their best possible potential in life? And this one most important factor is if your child does early intervention and how young they begin. Now, before you stop watching and think to yourself, check, we've already done that, so it's fine. There's actually nuance to the type of early intervention that leads to best long-term outcomes. Our new research is showing us that early interventions that are based in play and built to create natural social motivation for your child actually leads to your child doing better in learning naturally in their environment, which is obviously going to lead to long-term outcomes that are great. This is what your early intervention should not look like. Touch spoon. Nice job. Ready, hands. Clap. Good job. Do this. Good job. And here's what your early intervention should look like. Bouncing, bouncing on my knees. You better be careful or else I'll sneeze. Achoo! Achoo! Achoo, you if you have a child that's stuck on a wait list, if you have a child who's receiving early intervention but you're not sure it's the right kind, shoot me a DM. We can start a conversation.
Here are 6 things that I did to help my son when I found out he had autism. Number 1 thing, educate yourself. Don't listen to the advice of just one pediatrician. Read all the books of parents and children who have had autism who've written books themselves. Get educated directly from the source. 2, we cut out casein protein from his diet, which has been associated to cause gut issues. 3, we added probiotics to his diet to cleanse the gut, since the gut has a connection to the brain. 4, we stopped vaccines. Don't come at me with your choices. You know, you have your choices, I have mine. I decided to stop vaccinating my son, and our pediatrician agreed. 5, therapy. Immerse him in therapy as early as possible because early intervention is key. 6, supplement his foods because, as you know, some children who have autism are very picky eaters because of the sensory issues that may come with it. So we added Herbalife. I'm not selling the products, I get them on Amazon, but we added Herbalife to his diet so that he can get all the nutrients that he needed.
Can autism go away with early intervention? No. Autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder, largely genetic, and so it's always going to be a part of a person. But here's what early intervention can do. It can help toddlers and very young children learn to find value in looking at people, which unlocks the door to more natural learning in their environment. And it can also lay the foundation for spoken language. And why is this possible? Because the brain's plasticity is highest from birth to age 3. And plasticity simply means the brain is more adaptable to change. The neural connections happen more quickly, and unhelpful connections can easily be let go of. So though early intervention can never make autism go away, it is the single biggest contributor to successful outcomes for autistic people. So don't miss the window. By the time they turn 4, we're already starting to close down how rapidly the brain can change. In a perfect world, a child's enrolled in early intervention by the time they're 2, because this gives us 2 years to really make significant change. This can be in clinic early intervention, this can be in home early intervention, it can be therapist-led, it can be parent-led. The reason I created Jumpstart the Journey is because I feel so strongly about how important early intervention is, and yet so many parents miss it for their children because they don't get to it in time. Wait lists are too long, the processes take forever, so that by the time they actually get enrolled in treatment, they've missed the window altogether on early intervention. So don't miss the window.
Early intervention is key. Early intervention exists because it's effective. It works. When my son was about 1.5-ish, I started noticing that he wasn't saying as many words as he should. So then I kind of put it in the back of my mind, to ask the doctor in his yearly checkup. When he turned 2, we went to the doctor, and then the doctor asked me, well, how many words is he saying? Then I told him, and then he said, well, that he's at least saying some words, he'll catch up eventually. I was still not convinced that was the many words based on the guidelines. I knew he had to be saying more words than what he actually was saying. So then I Googled it, and then I came across the regional center for my state. I filled in a self-referral form, and my son was evaluated. Of course, he did have a speech delay, and then they started speech services and also in-home services. Fast forward to now, he's 5 years old. In a kindergarten classroom, he has a one-on-one aide because he does have high needs for behavior. He is diagnosed autistic, and he was initially qualified for an IEP because he had a speech delay. We did early intervention for about 8 months because it took forever to get evaluated and go through that whole process and start services. And after those 8 months, he turned 3, so then it was turned over to the school district, in which he started preschool, and he did preschool for 2 years because he was too young for TK, but now he skipped TK because now he's able to go to kindergarten since he's 5. During his time in preschool, I requested a functional behavior assessment because his behavior was the main concern. The BCBA then recommended he get a one-on-one aide. For the last 5 months of preschool, his last year of preschool, he had a one-on-one aide. And then since the first day of kindergarten, he's had a one-on-one aide. One of the biggest misconceptions with my son is that he is a high-functioning autistic boy, and although he's able to do a lot of things on his own and he's able to communicate now because he's gotten speech therapy for a while, he still struggles with a lot of behaviors, and those behaviors then impact his peers, his environment, his teacher, his classmates, etc. During the next few weeks, the ABA provider is going to be looking at the evaluations and trying to see if he's able to graduate ABA, because he has made so much progress that they are working on a few little things here and there now, as opposed to before where he had many goals, many things he was working towards, and now he is thriving. So trust me when I say that.
Did you know that early intervention can make a significant difference in the lives of children with autism? Let's take a closer look at how. Early intervention refers to the specialized support and services provided to children with autism at an early age, typically between the ages of 0 to 5. These interventions are designed to address the unique challenges faced by children on the autism spectrum. One key aspect of early intervention is the focus on improving communication skills. Therapists use evidence-based techniques to help children develop language and social communication abilities. Early intervention also fosters social interaction skills. Children participate in activities that promote play, turn-taking, and building relationships with their peers. Another important benefit of early intervention is its impact on educational outcomes. Early interventions provide the foundation for learning and help children develop the necessary skills to succeed in school. Parents play a vital role in early intervention. They receive guidance and support from professionals, empowering them to better understand their child's needs and provide consistent reinforcement at home. Research has shown that early intervention can lead to significant improvements in various areas, such as language development, cognitive abilities, adaptive skills, and reducing challenging behaviors. By receiving early intervention services, children with autism can gain confidence and independence, allowing them to actively participate in their communities and reach their full potential. Remember, early intervention can make a world of difference for children with autism. With proper support and early identification, we can create a brighter future for every child on the spectrum.
So as you see, early intervention is key because it's not only helping the child, it's also helping the parents setting systems in place so that this child has a routine and so that this child can get help as soon as possible. You're setting them up for in the future, you're setting them up for independence, and you're setting them up for a routine. And some kids, the sooner they get help, the better they can express themselves, help themselves, so that in the future that does not become one of your worries. All right, I'll catch you in the next video. Until next time, bye.